Growing up, society taught you to follow the script by choosing a career path and climbing the ladder. But for many people, this promise falls flat. Work suffocates them and life becomes painful. Here, you're trapped in what I call the corporate cage. Fortunately, there's a way out. You can take control of your corporate job and unlock a life of freedom. I call this living uncaged. Hi, this is your host, Matt Doan. I'm a coach, creator, and entrepreneur. Uncaging people is my mission because it's been my exact life journey. This show provides you the stories, principles, and tactics to make it happen. Welcome to Uncage Yourself. So going into 2022, I knew I was in for a real ride because in September of 2021, I had set the exact day that I would quit corporate life forever. And that was February 28th, 2022. I chose that date because it was a good date for me because it seemed like it afforded me the time to grow my coaching business, build a solid financial runway for my family, and receive company bonuses. And I knew my heart was pulling me to take the entrepreneurial leap. So I did. It happened exactly that way. I ripped the salary IV from my arm in early 2022, and I went sprinting out of corporate life. It felt amazing doing that. So, happily ever after, right? Not quite. Here's how I thought 2022 would unfold after quitting corporate. I thought I would build a massive social media following so that I could have reach and serve people. I'd create a package of great coaching solutions, enroll qualified people like clockwork. I would then serve those people powerfully. And of course, I would soak in the time and the financial freedom and be there with my family. Boom, it happened just like that, right? Just like the influencers tell you. No, that plan didn't actually survive contact with life. You see, when I was leaving corporate, in my mind, I was expecting wild success in a traditional sense. Business growth, revenue, building an audience. Instead, what I found was that my biggest successes, they came in unexpected areas. Here's what you need to know. 2022, when I left corporate, it taught me that entrepreneurship is brutal. But you know what? It's magically brutal. Let me go a little bit deeper. I will say this, entrepreneurship absolutely changes you. Over my last 5 years in corporate, I felt that I had come to this awakened state. I perceived myself as having this deep self-awareness, agency over my time, and real clarity over what I was choosing to do with my time, even on the corporate job. Essentially, I had unplugged from the matrix. And as I was walking out the corporate door, I thought I knew myself. But honestly, I was just scratching the surface because there is nothing that forces you to learn who you are like being dropped into the middle of the jungle, left to fend for yourself. And that's exactly what full-time entrepreneurship is like. With that corporate safety net now gone, you're forced to grow exponentially, really quickly. So as I reflected on this year one of entrepreneurship, I started to have this idea that it felt brutal. And I wanted to articulate 10 ways on why I feel that way. So here's what I got. Number 1, you wrestle with the pains and traumas from childhood. Number 2, you stare down your deepest fears and insecurities. Number 3, you shed the masks you've been wearing your whole life. Number 4, you're forced to destroy your old identity. Number 5, you're constantly updating your strategy. Number 6, you seemingly fail 90% of the time. Number 7, your family's future is all on you. Number 8, you're forced to let go of your past success. Number 9, you're compelled to build new skills rapidly. And number 10, you're no longer the pro. You're once again the beginner. So those are 10 reflections on why I say that entrepreneurship is brutal. I felt a lot of pain, but in the process, as I was going through year 1 of entrepreneurship, I discovered who I am, truly, much more than I had before. And beyond that, by going through this process, this was a forcing function for completely reinventing myself. But let me be clear, to get to this conclusion on how I felt the brutality of entrepreneurship is valuable, it took a huge mindset shift for me to get this way. And it's this: focus on the gain, not the gap. One of the best mental models I've ever learned is from my former coach, Dan Sullivan. He has one called the gain and the gap. Essentially, you have 2 choices for gauging your progress in your career and life. You can focus on the gap or the gain. The gap mentality says you're measuring yourself forward against an unachievable idea in the future. So you think about, I want financial freedom. I want to be successful on social media. I want a thriving business. Those are ideals. You can't even quantify what those things are when you say them like that. So you're always going to be striving, trying to close that gap. And you will never close that gap because it's just going to be like walking towards the horizon. You never get closer. Or you can choose to focus on the gain. Doing this means you're measuring yourself backwards by gauging progress from yesterday. That's it. Are you a little bit better than yesterday? Examples might look like, hey, I enrolled an exciting new client yesterday. I updated my core offer, or I meditated for the 5th day in a row. Those are clear markers that you've made progress from yesterday. And these things stack, they grow, they compound. And as I think about my year in leaving corporate, out of the gate, I was stuck in the gap. I was stressed about what I didn't yet have, and it was easy to get caught up in comparison with people online. But as I wrestled with these negative emotions and the months went by, I consciously started pulling in this concept I had learned from Dan. And this was about measuring my gains. And the gains were massive. Let me list them out for you. Hell, I left corporate after 15 years in the system. I was controlling my time. I was transforming lives. I was using my gifts every day. I felt leaner and stronger than ever physically. I took amazing vacations with my family, including a great trip to Italy with my wife. My wife and I, we improved our marriage very tangibly. And I built what I'd say is 10 years of skills in 10 months. That's what it felt like. So when I stepped back and I focused on the gain and not the gap, my progress in my first year of entrepreneurship felt monumental. And in this sense, this brutal experience that I had was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It was a forcing function to escape my decades-long comfort zone and build an entirely new career and life. I needed this. I needed it desperately. So thinking about what entrepreneurship is, it forces you to reckon with who you truly are and who you're capable of being. Looking back at the year 2022, for me, my conclusion is it all transpired exactly as it was supposed to. I had rid myself of the corporate crutch, broken through my comfort zone, and I learned to be on my own, to provide for my family on my own, to build a future of my own. This is all in contrast to just staying on the default path. I was creating my own path, and this is what it felt like. It was brutal, but man, it was magically brutal. When I think about what 2022 means for my future, it was the year of building my foundation. So as I think about going forward after that foundational year, now I see very clearly. It all makes sense in retrospect, right? It usually does. And I thought that 2022 needed to be about traditional success. But in reality, after going through it, it was about finding my footing. And now that I have it, I see that the possibilities for my career, for my life, are limitless. Here's what I know. Very factually in my soul, I am healthier, both mentally and physically. I am better prepared, better connected, and more confident than I've ever been. Another mental model that Dan Sullivan teaches is called the 4 C's. You go around this circle of commitment leads to courage, leads to capability, leads to confidence. And the cycle goes on. Commitment, courage, capability, confidence. So here's how that worked in my world last year, was that I committed to my new life full of freedom by leaving corporate. In leaving corporate, I proved to myself that I had the courage to face some very massive fears in my world. And being out on my own, it was a forcing function to develop new capability or skills, mindset. And collectively, 2022 was a foundational year for me. And I am 100% confident about the future and what it can bring, and that this was absolutely the right choice for me and my family. So yeah, entrepreneurship, totally brutal. But I don't regret 1 second of that experience. If I hadn't kickstarted this journey, this inclination 3+ years ago of wanting to be an entrepreneur, I'd still be a shell of my authentic self. I wouldn't be scratching the surface of my potential. But now I see who I really am. Now I've got this clear and exciting business strategy with real momentum, actively creating more freedom in my life every day. And I'll tell you, I am beyond excited to serve and show the world what I'm really capable of in 2023. So I hope that helps you, understanding that entrepreneurship might be the most brutal and effective way to discover yourself. I hope you take that chance. And it doesn't have to be about leaving corporate. As I say oftentimes with my clients, this is about maintaining the stability of your 9-to-5, but exploring on the side what it could be like to be an entrepreneur, testing that, maximizing your gifts, uncovering them, sharing them with the world, serving others, feeling like your highest self. Hell, that you're even transcending yourself and being a part of something larger than that. So that's my hope for you in this new year too. I hope this story helps you. And one final reminder, if this story is connecting with you and you want to understand more of how I went through this journey and how you can apply a lot of these same strategies to own your 9-to-5, design a badass life, and ignite your entrepreneurial self, check out the masterclass I built over at uncagedworkshop.com. I put my heart and soul into building that thing. I think you'll get a ton out of it. So that's uncagedworkshop.com. Thanks for hanging with me today. We'll connect soon.